Welcome to Women of Faith and Purpose. I am your host, Dr. Andrea Richards Scott, and I am so excited today to have our guest, Robin Marion. She is the powerhouse behind Velvet and Steel Fitness LLC, where she helps clients pursue a total concept approach to a healthy lifestyle. A certified fitness and wellness professional with over a dozen credentials, including ACE CPT, ACE Health Coach, Functional Movement and Mobility Specialist, and Certified Nutrition Coach. Robin blends science, strength, and compassion to guide others through every stage of life, including menopause, weight management, and performance training. She's also an OCB Figure Pro competitor and head judge, a strength and conditioning coach, and a lifelong advocate for holistic health and balance. Welcome, Robin. It's so good to
Thank
have
you.
you on the
Thank
show
you.
today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I am so
Thank you.
excited to get into this conversation. So, before we get started, I wanted to share that I met Robin at a business conference where she got up on stage and she led women through this amazing exercise. We stepped out of our seats and we got engaged and we were excited to do so. So, thank you, Robin, for sharing that with us. And I can't wait for the audience to hear more about what you do.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes, of course. All right. So let's get started with the first question, which is please share a bit about your background and how this led you to create Velvet Steel Fitness.
Hi, so thank you for having me. So my background was never really into fitness. It was just something that I grew into. I grew up in Chicago, born and raised. And of course, back in the day, everybody's outside playing. Everybody, you get out the house early Saturday morning and you're out until the sun goes down. But that wasn't necessarily my story because my grandmother, who I was raised by, was very much into the church, big church person, and so I spent a lot of my time with her. So I didn't really get a chance to experience a lot of the active things of being a young person growing up. But as I continued to get older and get into high school and things of that nature, I branched out into playing sports. And I realized some of the sports I liked and some of them I didn't like. And I don't know if that was because I didn't really get a chance to experience a lot of that growing up. But when I decided to go into the military, that was the game changer for me in terms of me really wanting to take my health and fitness by the horns and do something with it because of the struggle that I had just trying to meet the minimum standards just to join the military. I mean, I had to
Wow.
gain weight to go in the military because of my career field that I chose. Um, and that was a whole nother thing of being on this, believe it or not, weight gaining program for almost a month to gain weight just to get into the military for my career field. But even after that, I struggled with the push-ups. I struggled with a lot of different things. So that led me to wanting to better myself. And then once I got in the military and saw everybody else's struggles, I really felt like there was more that could be done because being in the military, I always felt that what they gave us in PT and physical training and what they gave us in the nutritional aspect was just enough to sustain the force so that we can continue being military service members, but not necessarily enough to make a bona fide change in lifestyle that goes beyond the military. So that is why I decided to take it a step further and become certified and take all of these different classes and training and things like that, because I really wanted to help the people that I was in charge of, and even those that I wasn't in charge of. I wanted to help them become better people outside of the uniform as much as I was making them be better in within the uniform.
Okay. Wow. So you shared a couple things that really stuck out to me. First off, you talked about struggling with weight. Most people struggle with weight loss, and you talked about struggling with weight gain. And so I just wanted to point out that we are about being healthy, and whether you need to lose weight or whether you need to gain weight, we want to do it in a healthy manner. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Awesome. All right. So, what is your purpose and how did you come to recognize it?
That is a very good question because my I have to I defer to my grandmother a lot because I mean she's no longer with us, but a lot of the things that she instilled in me growing up, a lot of times when we're younger, we don't understand the connection and the importance of what an older person is telling us until we become an older person and all of those things start to ring true. But I always say people say my purpose fuels their passion. And I kind of switch it around and say my passion fuels my purpose because I'm very passionate about being healthy. I feel like too many times we are very uh, reactive to our health instead of being proactive to our health. And a lot of times it also translates into the community and the culture that we exist in. And so for me, I became very passionate about the health and fitness side, number one from the military, as I stated before, because I saw so many of the younger troops getting separated from the military because they couldn't meet the weight standards, they couldn't meet the height standard, or not the height, but they couldn't meet the weight standards, they couldn't meet the physical training standards. And as a leader, unfortunately, I was a part of some of those processes that had to start the paperwork to chapter them out because
Mm,
even though I didn't want to see them separated, the rules were if you can't meet this by this time frame, separation is the next option, is the next thing. But I wanted to change that mindset and just, give people more outside of the military. And then that translated into the civilian side. Now, in full transparency, I can't say I ever really wanted to train just regular civilians because I'm like the military, they know they have something to lose.
right,
They're gonna do what you tell them to do. But the civilian side, I was like, I don't know if I want to do that because it's I don't really have to do this if I don't want to. And the military
right,
is not necessarily that same mindset,
right.
but it translated into both sides because I have family members that have health issues. I have friends that
Mhm.
have health issues, and I just want people to be more aggressive with what they're trying to do and not make health and fitness a hobby. It needs to be a
Mm,
lifestyle and a
wow.
sustainable lifestyle. But all too often we make it a hobby in getting ready, getting losing weight, for the next event, for the next big thing. And the big thing that you should always be getting ready for is life. So
Mm,
I just decided that I wanted to take that a step further, and that is what became my passion. So my passion fuels my purpose because I really enjoy what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. And because I'm passionate about what I do, I feel like I get up every day with a purpose to make at least one person be better that day.
wow. Yeah, as I listen to you tell me about your passion and your purpose, I'm sensing that there's a story behind Velvet and Steel. It sounds like you might be a drill sergeant. Am I right?
I was a drill sergeant, yes. That's very good.
So tell me a little bit about how you came up with that name.
Well, the name actually came from my husband. As I was doing mobile training for the longest time, and I was actually training people, going to them, and also training out of my basement. And so I decided that I wanted to move into a storefront, and he kind of pushed me in that direction. Although it was very daunting to me with all that comes with owning a business that's more than just mobile training here in the house or something like that. And so when I was trying to come up with a name, he came up with he said, I think the name should be Velvet Wrapped Around Still. And I said, well, that's too long of a business name. And then he said, well, change it to Velvet and Still. And then I said, okay. And I said, well, give me the reason why you chose that particular name. And he said, Velvet is soft, still is hard. And everyone that has a hardness about them also has a softness about them. Still is strength, and everybody is strong in their own right, but at the same time velvet is soft, and every person that has a soft it has a soft exterior or whatever, they also have strength within them. You just have to tap
Right.
into it. So between a strong side and a soft side, you have to tap into both to be a
Mhm.
balanced person. You can't walk around soft all the time, you can't walk around hard all the time. And it's more than just about the physical being of the individual. So the velvet is still is not just about what you see, it's also about the mental fortitude, the strength that's within, the softness that's within. So yeah, it's not just physical. It's a total package, mentally and everything. So my husband
Wow.
came up with that name. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it fits you to a T. It sounds like just having that strength and fortitude to stick with that program is part of it too.
Hmm.
And of course, I don't know if you target just women or if you do men as well, but when I think about it, I think that velvet part speaks to the women, right? It speaks to the fact that I don't have to show up and exercise and end up looking like a man at the end of the day. I can still be soft and still be strong on the inside. So I really like that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it actually speaks to it speaks to men too, because men like to keep that hard exterior. They don't want anybody to see that they have a soft side, but they always all of them do. They typically just display it more privately than they do publicly. So I
Mm,
have both men and women. And so when my husband came up with a name, I immediately thought, okay, well, you're targeting this just towards women. And he
right.
said, well, no, when he explained it to me, he said, no, this is for men and women. He said, because I'm a man and I know that I have a soft side when it comes to certain things. He said, but as men, we want to be macho. We want to have that,
Mm,
machismo, and we don't want to display that soft side, but everybody needs to see that soft side in a man, just like everybody needs to see a strong side in a
no
woman.
woman.
So
Wonderful.
it's
Okay.
both. Yeah,
That
yeah,
makes a lot of sense. All
yeah.
right. So tell me, in terms of your faith, how does it influence your work, your values, and or your strategic decision making?
Oh my goodness, this is a good one. It's from my grandmother. It really is. I remember, and this is just a short story. I remember being in the military, and this was before I had opened my business, and from any standpoint. But I remember being in the military, and I was trying to get promoted, and I missed a promotion selection to master sergeant, which is an E8 in the Army. And I remember calling my grandmother and I was just bawling my eyes out while I'm driving home, telling her, what's going on and everything. And so she said to me, she said, remember, promotions come from God, not man. And so you need to remember that. And she said, and while everybody is getting announced that they got selected for this E8 that you're talking about, she said, because your promotion is going to come from God, you're going to have your promotion in a very special way for it to come to you, which is by yourself, recognized by yourself, and anything along those lines. So I did a standby advisory board, and we submitted my documents that were not in my packet for promotion. And sure enough, that's I got selected for E8 Master Sergeant. And my announcement was by itself, my promotion was by itself, and everything that my grandmother told me just rang true to me that day when they told me, congratulations, you've been selected for Master Sergeant. So I translate that into my business because as much as I was fearful about stepping out, I had to say, I can't use fear as the negative. So I use fear as the positive in all things that I do. So I fear is face everything and rise for me. And even my tagline, which people comment all the time when they see my signature block, because it's Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I start every morning with prayer. I start every morning with asking God to guide me and leading the lives of the people who have chosen to come to me for their health and fitness. And give me discernment in everything that I do. So I always tell people I go wherever God steers my ship. So I've learned my lesson in trying to do opposite of what he's trying to have me do. Because when
Yeah.
you do opposite of what God wants you to do, you don't have success there. So I learned my lesson there. And I just like I say every time, I'm presented with an opportunity, I'm presented with a challenge or anything like that, I just leave it to God and I pray and I say, God, if this is what you want me to do, if this is what I'm supposed to do, then I'm gonna follow you. You will light my path for me. And if it's not something that I'm supposed to do, you will keep that path dark for me because it's not a path I'm supposed to go down.
I love
So
that.
that's
I
that's how
love
I live
that.
my business.
That's amazing. I love that you really do depend on God for every step in your business, in your decision making. You wake up, you ask for the direction you should go in. And what you said was, if the path is dark, I know that's not the one. If it's light,
Mhm.
that's where God wants me to go. And that is just such a clear visual of us just depending on Him for everything. Tell me, what impact do you hope to make through your work?
They always say that, you want to leave a legacy. You want people to remember you, and how you impacted their lives. And honestly, I don't go into every day of what I do thinking about that because I think that if that's what's supposed to happen, is going to happen naturally. So I don't go into it um, with a bona fide actions to make that happen. But I want people to remember me. I want people to remember Velvet and Still Fitness. I want people to remember Robin and anything that I have done as somebody, in a business that has made an impactful change on their life to where whatever I did while they were with me, they still see the fruits of that. They're still continuing to incorporate those things that I've shown them, that I've taught them, that I've educated them on. And so far, that's exactly what's happening. So if anybody can come to me and say, which it has happened, you really changed my life, or I remember what you did, or I remember when you went into drill sergeant mode on me, things like that. I know that I have made an impact because it's not always about what you say, it's about what you do as well. So when people cross my threshold, I want them to encounter somebody who is stern, who's going to hold them accountable, but is also compassionate to what they're going through. Because I don't have to be overweight to know what someone who's overweight and who's trying to lose weight is going through. I don't have to be 100% healthy. I tell people all the time, give me whatever your 100% is that day, because everybody's
Okay.
100% is going to look different.
Hmm.
So I just want people to, when they think about me, they say, yeah, she's stern, but she really cares. She really cares, and she knows her stuff. And that's
Awesome.
what I get. That's what I get.
Yeah, that's great. And so you said something about legacy. So is your impact your legacy, or do you think there's a different level for your legacy?
Um, I think there's a different level because the impact can change on any given day. I think my level, the level for my legacy is the way that it's impact in action, and it's also words, because there's a lot of people out here whose words don't match their action, and because the words don't match the action, the impact can be positive or negative.
Right.
So I don't want to necessarily just focus on the impact of what I do versus the actions and my words of what I do.
Mm.
So I would say impact is just below that, when it comes to what I do with everybody else. And I have a lot of clients that will regurgitate phrases that I say, words that I say, actions that I do, or whatever. And I think those things lead to the impact that I have on clients. So my legacy is my character versus
Mm.
the impact.
Wow. Your character is your legacy. So long beyond, you, long after you're gone, people are going to remember your character, not just the fact that you helped them lose weight, but how you impacted them and how you transformed their lives. They're going to
Yes,
remember your character.
yes.
Okay. So what would you say is the number one success factor for your business today?
Wow. There are many, but my number one, as it stands at this point, I would have to go back to COVID. And
Mm.
the reason why I use COVID as the example that I share with so many people is because during COVID, all the gyms, all of the fitness locations, everything was shut down. And I was one that did not want to do virtual training. I'm a very hands-on person, so I really like to see my people in person. I like to be able to make corrections. And to me, virtually, while it does happen, it can happen in my mind, that wasn't ideal for me. But when everything closed down during COVID, I didn't get approved for any PPP loans, even though I was a bona fide business and had documentation to show it, but they denied me. And I knew also that everybody was going through some type of mental hurdle, some type of depression, some type of anxiety as it pertained to COVID. and I didn't want to leave my clients out there just, flapping in the wind or anything like that. So what I did was I told my husband, I said, listen, we've got to keep classes going. I said, and at this point, I don't even care if it's paid classes because there were people also out of work because of COVID. I said, but it's going to be better for everybody's mental health. So what we did was we moved everything out of my garage, and I brought as much stuff as I could to my garage and made VSF mobile into the garage.
Okay.
But I was able to sustain operations during COVID with no financial assistance from the government, just me doing what I felt needed to be done. And I prayed about it. I prayed about it. I felt like I was praying forever because I just kept saying, I don't want to lose my business. I don't want to, I don't want to close. I don't want to do this. And the words that I heard at that time was you need to pivot and shift. And the pivot and shift was me embracing the virtual aspect of
Hmm.
Velvet and Still Fitness. Now, I already
Hmm.
had a virtual app, but when I say virtual aspect, I mean having somebody like we're doing right now, but I'm actually training somebody virtually on the
Right.
other side of the computer, which I was pushing back on for years. But I heard the words pivot and shift and open the classes up to virtual classes where people can actually do the classes from home. And that's what I did. And that became another umbrella of my business that people absolutely fell in love with and people absolutely enjoyed. So people still join the classes virtually. I still do one-on-ones virtually. I have virtual clients in other states in the United States and outside of the country.
Wow.
So that is the big thing that happened that is a success story for my business when other people didn't were not even able to open back up after COVID. I just dug in and everything again, it goes back to if the path is lit, that's where I'm supposed to go. And if it's dark, that's not where I'm supposed to go. And I just kept going down the lit path. And I kept saying, if this is what's meant for me, I'm just God is steering my ship. And if this is what's meant for me, this is what I'm gonna do. And yeah, that was the success story. So I survived
Wow.
COVID with no help from anybody except from God and my husband.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how you tell the story and how, one, sometimes we think we know what's best for us, but that old saying that man makes plans and God laughs
Mhm.
because he knows what's best for us.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so it sounds like, obedience was the call of the day, like just listening to him, spending time in prayer. And you can't hear his voice if you're not spending time with him. So
No.
you spent time with him, you heard his voice, he said go right, you went that way, and the rest is history.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
just amazing.
Yes.
Okay, and so there's a lesson, I believe, in that for a lot of people who are wondering what does God want them to do next, right? Ask and
Mm-hmm.
listen, right? And obey,
Yes.
it sounds like
Yes.
is the answer.
Yes.
Okay.
I say all the time, a lot of times we pray and prayer is always good. It's never going to not be good. But we
Mm-hmm.
always have to pray with action because in prayer God gives us actions that we need to do. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times people don't follow through with the action. So I
Mm-hmm.
always pray with action. And I think that is extremely important. The road wasn't promised to be easy, but if
Mm-hmm.
you stay the course, you will have the success.
Amen. And so when you say pray with action, that means if you say, God, what would you want me to do? And God tells you what to do, then do it, right? That's what you mean by pray with action?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. Okay. What advice do you have for women who are called to a particular purpose? And how do you encourage them to step out on their faith to pursue what God has given them to do? What advice do you
Well,
have
I
for
would
them?
say not feel like number one, they have to go it alone. You may not have anybody in your corner from a, say, family standpoint or, blood relative standpoint, but there are always people there to support you. When I decided to move my business into a storefront, I had the support. I mean, just strangers were embracing me, and I had no clue who they were, just giving me the steps of what I needed to do. But at the same time, a lot of times we go into things and we want to do everything at one time.
Mhm.
No, if you pray, you're going to get the steps of what you need to do. Reach out and lean on to other people who are already where you are, where you're trying to get to. and embrace that. You know, sometimes you have to let go a little bit of control in order for people to help you the way that you need to be helped. And God puts people in your life for a reason. And everybody that comes into your life are not trying to steal your joy. They're not trying to steal your thunder. They're not trying to control you or anything like that. There's a certain level of discernment that you have to have when it comes with this. And sometimes when you're dealing with people, you have to listen with a discerning ear, because
Mm.
those people that are there to help you, they're sent by God for a reason. But if you don't let your guard down and listen with discernment, you'll never know. So I would advise them to just take the steps, strategically, with prayer, with action, and don't try to do everything at one time. Because if you do everything at one time, what is there left for God to keep steering you for? I mean,
Oh,
he's not going to give you everything at one time.
right,
He's not going to give you everything at one time.
right.
He's going to give you what you need at that moment. But we cannot rush God's time either.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain level of impatience that we have as human beings,
Mm-hmm.
and that can be very conflicting with what God wants you to do. So sometimes you just
Wow.
need to, like playing like at a casino, you need to hold. You don't you need to hold before you do something else.
Right.
Yeah.
Amen. Wow, that's some really, really good advice. You got to pray. You got to not try to do everything all at once. You got to make sure that you draw on talents that other people have to offer. And you have to sometimes slow your roll a little bit, slow down and let God, don't get ahead of God, right? That's
Hmm.
amazing.
Hmm.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I think that's really valuable. Is there anything that you would like to share with our audience, how they can get in contact with you, anything else about your journey or anything at all?
My website address is www.velvetsteel.net. My contact phone number is 410-499-1865. And in terms of anything else that I want to share, like I said, I'm just very passionate about health and fitness. I'm even more so passionate about it from a woman's standpoint. I
Hmm.
feel like as women, and I even mentioned it at the business conference that I did with you guys, is that we put ourselves on a back burner so much, because we're the nurturer, we're the mothers, we're the grandmothers, we take on so many different roles, but we can't be our best self for anybody else if we're not our best selves for ourselves. So it's not selfish to put yourself first so that you can be what you need to be to other people.
Absolutely.
So that's what I want anybody watching this to remember. Take care of
Awesome.
yourself first. But I'm just passionate about what I do, and I want to continue helping people. I didn't come from this, my life wasn't easy. I've had my own challenges, my own health issues and things like that. But I refuse to let those things control me, and I refuse to give in to them, because I know that you can almost overcome anything that you set your mind to. You just
Mm.
have to really want to do it. The road is not going to be easy, but it is achievable.
What would you say to someone who says, "Oh, it's easy for you. You're young and you're thin and you don't have the same kind of challenges I have." What would you say to somebody like that?
I hear that a lot. Everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. Everybody's 24 hours. What they do within those 24 hours looks different. So you can't look at somebody's current chapter and assume that something's easy for them, because you don't know the book that the chapters that came before the chapter that you're looking at, that you're reading. So I never tell somebody, "Oh, this should be easy for you," because I don't know what that is. You meet people where they are all the time.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
how you start. And when people tell me that things should come easy for me, you do this every day, all day, you're young. And I'm like, well, I'm not. I may look that way, but I'm not. I'm thin, and it's just like you said earlier, I have my own health challenges as it pertains to gaining weight. So just because somebody is thin doesn't make them healthy. And just because somebody is bigger or they're carrying more weight doesn't make them unhealthy. So you meet people where they are. And as I've told several clients, even just last week, I said, keep in mind that I do this every day, all day. So what you think is easy for me is actually extremely hard because I'm constantly breaking my body down all day, every day.
Mm,
This is what I do. So you don't see me when I go home and I'm grunting when I sit down, or I'm getting up and this is sore and that is sore. But we all have the same 24 hours in a day, is what you do with it. And when I sit down and talk to people and I dissect what they do in a day, they realize they have more time than they say they do.
mm,
Because, oh, well, you just binge watch 3, 4 hours of TV. Well, in that time frame, you could have been doing crunches on the floor, you could have been doing sit-ups, you could have been doing marching in place, you could have been doing a lot of different things. So I think people underestimate what kind of time they have. And I also think sometimes it becomes an excuse because they're overwhelmed with the task of trying to be healthy. They
mhm.
think it's much more involved than it really is. And it's just, you take small steps, tweaks every day, and then you just continue to build on that. And it also goes back to people not seeing the results. They want microwave results.
Right.
They want sprint results in something that actually requires a marathon.
Mm,
So you have to stay the course. So I usually negate all of that once I always give the 24-hour speech.
yeah.
Um, and then that kind of makes them kind of step back and say, okay, well, why you have to be so right all the time? Why you have to dissect it like that? I'm like, that's what it is.
Yeah. That's great. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Robin. I have really enjoyed talking to you. And honestly, you've given me a lot of food for thought. I mean, the 24 hours in a day, what's your real priority? Are you going to sit on the couch? Or are you going to get up and march in place? And so that's really something to think about and to put into action, right? So
Right,
thank you
right.
for that. And again, thank you for joining the program. We're going to go ahead and put your information up on the screen, www.velvetsteel.net.
Correct.
And tell us your phone number one more time.
The phone number is 410-499-1865.
Wonderful. So thank you again and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too. I really enjoyed this and thank you for having me.
You are quite welcome.